Okay, so the first form of payment that we're going to talk about is cash and coins. Okay, so in your notes, write down cash/coins. You don't have to write down everything you see. Okay, so what I'm doing in this PowerPoint is the very first line is going to explain what it is. Now, I know you guys know that cash and coins is paper money and coins. Like, we all know what that is. So we don't need to write that down because we know what that is, right? And what you might want to do is say advantages, but do like ADV, so abbreviation, so you don't have to write out the whole word. ADV for advantages, and then disadvantages, DIS. Okay, so we just kind of talked about this. So an advantage of cash and coins is it's quick and easy to use. It's accepted most everywhere, readily available. And then the disadvantage is there is no protection if it's lost. So I'm going to give you about a minute and 30 seconds to write that down, and then we're going to move on. "45 seconds. All right. Are there any questions about that one? I think that one's pretty straightforward because we already know about cash and coins. All right, our next one is a check. Now remember, I don't want you to write everything you see, so don't freak out. Okay? So what it is, a check is a paper form of payment tied directly to your bank account. Okay? So I have a paper book of checks that I use to write a check. It's tied to my bank account, meaning there has to be money in my account. If there is no money in my account and I write a check and give it to somebody, that's actually illegal. Okay? You can go to jail for that. All right? So it's a lot harder to do that now than it used to be because now people can put that in immediately and see if you have money, and then they just say, no, you got to cancel check, you got to return check, and then they give you a fee for it. Okay? Used to be there was not such immediate feedback. Okay? And so people would be able to write a check, and then the person, the grocery store or whoever, it would take them a few days to go and turn that check into the bank, and they wouldn't know for a few days that you didn't have money in your account. And so then that became that's illegal. Okay, and if you keep doing that, then you go to jail. So advantages. One of the really big advantages is you can track your payments. Okay, so write that, can track your payments. So if you get the checks that have what's called a carbon copy, which is like a copy on the back, so when you write on the top check that you turn in to someone, it actually writes on the carbon copy, you can see which checks you've written and for how much. Also, you can keep track of that through online banking. Okay, and so there's a lot of apps out there. Pretty much every bank now has an app that you can go to and you can see all your money right on the app. I love it. I have mine tied actually to send me texts. So every time my husband or I buy something, I get a text that says, "Hey, you just spent $6 at Whataburger." So then I know. The other advantage is it is
like my uncle.
I'm sorry, are you really interrupting me? I see your hand, but I'm not done with my thought. Okay, it's also protected by your bank. So if you write a check and someone does something bad with that check, you're not at fault. Okay, so it's protected by your bank, and it's also a really good and safe way to mail a payment. Okay, so if you get a bill in the mail and you have to pay that with a check, that's a pretty safe way to do that. Okay. Jalen, do you have a question?
Yes, like my uncle. Whenever I
Okay, let me
whenever
stop.
he
Whoa,
buys
whoa,
something,
whoa, 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 whoa. Let me stop you there. Is this a question or a comment? Because we don't have time for comments today. So do you have a question?
comment.
Okay, I'm sorry, but we just don't have time for comments today. Okay. So the disadvantages of a check, it does take time to write it. Okay. So if you're in the grocery store and you have just bought, $150 of groceries and you're standing there and you want to pay for that with a check, it takes time to write it out. Okay. A lot more time than if you pay with cash or with a card. And so it is a little, I don't know about for your parents, but for me, it's a little bit annoying when I get behind someone who's writing a check because I know it's going to take a lot of time. Okay. And again, you have to have money in your account. Okay, so I talked about that at first. If you don't have money in your account when you pay for something with a check, number one, they're just not going to let you go through with it. Or if they do, some banks are really bad about charging you fees. And so they will charge you, like for instance, if you pay with a check for something that is $26, but you only had $25 in your account, that means that you owe the bank $1 because the bank is going to say, you know what, I'll cover that dollar for you. Okay, and they'll pay for that dollar, which is great. That's awesome. But the thing is, they're going to charge you a fee. And so to be able to borrow that dollar from them, you will then have to pay them back a fee of $30 or $35. Okay. So yes, they're so nice and generous. Oh, I'll let you have that dollar. I'll help you out. But that dollar just cost you $30. Okay. So something to think about. Also, it's not always accepted everywhere. Okay. So some places will say, no, I'm not going to take a check. I'll take all these other forms of payment, but I'm not going to take a check. And then, of course, the last thing, some banks have fees. So I know my bank that I'm with, I do have to pay for my checks. So, like, I pay for them to give me those checks, but I don't really have too many other fees involved with my checks. So, that's one of the reasons I went with this bank. Some banks like to charge you for every little thing. Okay, so when you get older and you get a job and you get a paycheck and you want to get a bank account, make sure you're asking about what fees do you charge? How much is this going to cost me? Because it's not free to go to a bank. Like, it's free to put your money in there, but they're going to charge you other things. Okay, so always think about that. So I know a lot of you have been writing while I've been talking, which is great. I'm perfectly fine with that. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to wrap that up, and then we're going to move on. And let me remind you, you have this available to you, right? So if we're going through and you don't get everything written down, you can still go back and do it on your own later. Okay, next one. Debit card. Okay, so a debit card is also tied to your bank account. So there has to be money in your account. Okay. However, it is a card. Okay. It works exactly like a check. Okay. Check and debit card work exactly the same. It's just that a check is paper and a debit card is a card. Okay. So some advantages of a debit card. Well, there we go. Works just like a check, but it's quicker to use. Okay. When I'm paying for my groceries, I definitely like to use a debit card because it is way faster than using a check. Oh, I think I have a typo there. That should say most places will accept debit cards. In fact, almost everybody accepts debit cards now because even companies that don't necessarily have like, a cash register set up, a lot of them have handheld devices or like iPads or the little square thing that connects to your phone where they can still swipe debit cards. So they're accepted a lot of places. And because it is just like a check, it's protected the same as a check. So if you lose your debit card or your checks, or someone steals it, or something happens with it, it's easy for you to get in touch with your bank and get that all squared away, and you don't have to pay. If somebody takes your debit card and goes and spends $1,000 at some store, you don't have to pay that if they stole it from you. Okay? And again, because it's the same thing as a check, it's easy to keep records. Okay. One thing I really like about using the app on my phone is that I can see. So, like when I write a check, I can see it easily on there. When I deposit money into my account, I can see it. Every time money comes out of my account, I can see it. So, pretty much everything I do with my bank comes in that app, and I love it. Some disadvantages. Some places will not accept debit cards. Okay. And again, because it's like a check, you must have money in your account. Okay. If not, you pay high fees or eventually you would go to jail, just like with checks. David, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So like, so let's just say the person took your credit card. Are they able to track that person down, or do they just
Sometimes, yes. Yes. Well,
um
most times, eventually, yes, they will track that down.
um
Okay. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to wrap that slide up, and then we'll move on because we got several more slides to go. Okay, the next one, credit card. Now, I really need you guys to understand the difference between a debit card and a credit card. They are both cards, okay? So that's the same thing. Yes, they're both cards. But a credit card is not tied into your bank account, okay? A credit card is given to you by a credit card company if you qualify. Now, here's the thing about credit cards. When you use a credit card, what you're doing is you're saying, like, okay, let me use Capital One. Okay. If I have a Capital One credit card, when I go to the store and I use that card to pay for something, what I'm saying is, hey, Capital One, I'm buying these clothes and I need $50. Can I use your $50 to pay for these clothes? That's really what you're saying by using the card. And Capital One goes, "Oh, yes, of course. We'll be happy to give you $50 to use for that. However, you pay me back my 50 plus a fee." Okay? So they're willing to let you use that money right then when you need it, but you're not only going to have to pay it back, but you're going to have to pay a fee. Okay? And usually it's a pretty high fee. Okay? So that $50 might actually turn into could be $70 or $80 later on, okay, with their fees. And especially if you start being like, you don't pay it off on time and you start having late fees and all kinds of other fees, you know, your $50 that you spent on some clothes could turn into like $200 or $300 if you're not careful. Okay. And that's what they're counting on. That's what they want. Credit card companies want you to have late fees and all these other things because that means they get money. Okay. So I always tell fifth graders, if you ever get a credit card, pay it off right away. Here's an example. Over spring break, I went and bought some new clothes. Okay. I think it was like $220, something like that. And I used a credit card, knowing full well that when I get paid next week, I'm going to pay it off completely. Okay. So it's money that I didn't have at that moment that I knew I was going to pay later on. Okay. So if you use a credit card, make sure you pay it off as fast as possible. Okay. So advantages, works like a debit card. So it's quick and easy. Okay. Most places take it. Okay. The thing about it is if you don't have money at that point, then yes, you can borrow money from them. Okay. So like last October, we had an issue with my car and it ended up being almost $5,000 to fix it. I didn't have $5,000. My husband didn't have $5,000. So I think we had $1,500. And so we paid that out of our accounts. And then the other account, $3,500, went on a credit card. Okay. And I was able to pay that credit card off last month. Okay. So that was a good example of having a credit card for emergencies. Okay. I'm not saying all credit cards are bad, but I am saying that credit card companies want you to get lots of credit cards and they want you to get in debt because it means they get more money. That's how they stay in business. Okay. So if you get a credit card, use it responsibly. Okay. You can also keep records easily. Okay, it's not necessarily an app like with your bank account, but they will give you a statement. Some places will have an app, kind of just depends on what the company decides to do. Okay, now the disadvantages, very high percentage rates. Okay, so like I said, I could go and spend $50, but that $50 might cost $100 later on because of the percentage rates. Okay, and you are borrowing money from a company that you need to pay back plus interest. So it is very easy to get into debt using credit cards. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to finish that off. All right, next one. Money order. All right, a money order is another paper form of payment. Okay, it is not tied to any account though. So you can actually take anything you want, any other form of payment, and buy a money order. So I used to do this before I had a checking account because I didn't like writing checks all the time. And so I would go to Walmart or Kroger's or wherever, most grocery stores, you can buy money orders. And I would go and I would say, you know what? I'm going to use my debit card to get a money order for my rent, because my rent, they would only accept check or money order. They wouldn't accept anything else. And so I would pay them with my debit card and they would give me a piece of paper that looks just like a check. Okay. So this is good for, like, if you like to pay cash for everything, okay, but you're renting an apartment and they say, no, I won't take cash. You can go with your cash and say, hey, here's my rent money. Give me a money order. Okay. And that's usually only like a couple of dollars, if that, okay, to be able to do that. So advantages, almost every place will take them. Okay. And you can place any amount on them. So that's the really good thing, because your rent is usually a pretty big amount, right? And so you could place, I could buy one for $5 if I wanted, okay? Or if I just had the money and I was trying to purchase something, let's say I was saving for a really long time and I wanted to buy a car and I had $15,000, okay? And I went and I bought a money order for $15,000. It's much easier to carry around that single piece of paper than it is to carry around $15,000, isn't it? Okay. And I don't need a bank account. Okay. So if you don't have a bank account and you have cash saved up at home, you can go and buy a money order. You don't have to have a bank account. Now, the disadvantage is you have to purchase a money order from an actual business. Now, I only see that as a disadvantage necessarily because of the time needed. It's not like I can go through a drive-through and purchase a money order. Like, I have to actually get out of my car, sometimes wait in line if there's other people, and I have to, get up there and actually purchase one. Okay? And here's the really big disadvantage. Once I purchase that, there is no protection if I lose it. So if I go in with my $15,000 because I want to buy my new car, and I get that money order, and I accidentally drop it out of my pocket, there's $15,000 gone, and there's no way to get it back. Okay? So that is a huge disadvantage. Okay? 30 seconds to finish that. All right, next one. Electronic payment, otherwise known as an e-payment. Okay? It is a form of payment done strictly online. Now, there's a lot of different ways for that to happen now. It can be done on your phone. It can be done on the laptop. Anywhere you can connect to the internet, you can make an e-payment. Okay? And it's tied to either your bank, your credit card account, or, as Jada said earlier, could be a Cash App. Okay? So there's a lot of ways now. It used to be like, when I was growing up, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a debit card. Okay? Checks, yes. Money orders, yes. Cash, of course. But all these electronic ways of paying for things, that was not even a thought in anybody's mind when I was growing up. So you guys have a lot of different ways. It's possible in this day and age that you could get your money and spend your money without ever actually touching paper money. Okay? Because you can get your paycheck deposited into your bank account, and you can use debit cards and checks and electronic payments, and you never even touch the cash. Okay? That's totally possible. So advantages: easy to use and keep track of payments, pretty much the same way as I was talking about with a bank, with a credit card or a debit card. One of the things I like is you can set up recurring payments. So for instance, I know that every month on the 5th of the month, there is a bill to Lincoln's vet that I have to pay. Okay? That pays for his health plan that he has. Okay? $65 every month on the 5th. And so rather than writing a check every month for that, I have it set up that they automatically take it out of my account. So I don't even have to think about it. I do, when I do my budget, double check and make sure they took it out, which they always do. It's never been a problem. But I don't have to think about that. I don't have to pay it every month. It just automatically comes out. Okay? It makes ordering items very easy. Okay? I will admit I am on Amazon all the time. Okay? Buy stuff from there. I'd say at least 10 packages a month. Okay, now most of it is stuff like vitamins and dog food, stuff that if I wasn't buying it from Amazon, I'd get it at the store, but it's kind of just convenient and easy. And so I have my Amazon account tied to my bank account. So it's super easy to order something. Okay, like if I know where it is, I can buy something in 30 seconds from Amazon because it's already tied in there and I don't have to put my stuff in there again. And e-payments do have some protections. Okay, now it's a little bit of a gray area on some of these like new cash apps and things like Venmo and all of that. There's some protection there, but maybe not quite as much protection as you would get from your bank account. Okay, so that's something you should be weary of if you're using one of those apps. Disadvantages, it can be hacked. Okay, especially some of these new ones. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then sometimes it does take time to set up your accounts, okay, which is just more of an annoyance, not really a bad thing, just kind of annoying to set it up. But once it's set up, it's easy to use, okay? So 30 seconds on that. I see most of you are done writing, but some are still writing, so. All right, and I think this is our last one, gift card. Okay, I like to talk about this because a lot of kids don't understand the difference between a debit card, a credit card, and a gift card. Okay, remember your debit card is with your bank account. Your credit card is with a credit card company. Okay, a gift card is also a card, so it's not paper, it's a card, but it's not tied to an account, okay? And it's purchased by you or someone else for a specific location. So when we get to the end of the 6 weeks and I see who are our winners for Class Dojo points, I go to Walmart and I buy a $10 and a $5 gift card to be used where? At Walmart. That's the only place they can use it, okay? So there are some gift cards, like a Visa gift card, that you could use in more places. Okay, so a Visa gift card is pretty much universal. You can use it everywhere. Okay, and there are other gift cards that are, they might have like 4 or 5 different restaurants attached to them, so you can go to any of those places and use it. Okay, so the advantages are it's really easy to use. Okay, and really just like any other card. Easy to use, quick. Okay. And one thing about cards, I didn't say this, but cards are really easy to carry, right? Stuff them in your wallet goes in your pocket, and there you are, you're ready to go. Okay. Whereas if you have a lot of cash, they may not be quite so easy to carry, right? So a disadvantage to gift card, there is absolutely no protection. Okay, so when Anthony came back on Monday and I gave him his card that he won for Walmart for the last 6 weeks, if he went out of here and he accidentally dropped that somewhere, there's absolutely no protection. That money is gone now. Okay, so no protection at all. It can only be used at the specified store or stores unless it's something like a Visa card that you can use everywhere. Okay, so I once got a Sonic gift card as a prize for something here at school. Okay, I could only go to Sonic and use that. Now I can go to any Sonic, so it's not like I have to go to a specific one. I can go to any Sonic, okay, but I can't take my Sonic and go to McDonald's and say, hey, I want a Diet Coke. They're going to be like, yeah, so you can't use that here, so it has to be used at that store. Jalen, question?
My mom has a gift card, and she used it for gifts when it was Christmas.
Okay. Kaya, do you have a question?
Is this on Canvas?
Yes, it is. Yes. So it's located. Let me stop this